Hello, welcome to my channel. This is the Multipolar Dispatch channel. This is episode 6 and it will be narrated by George. Thank you.
For most of our lives, the world has operated according to a simple assumption. The United States was the center of the international system. The dollar was the world's money. American naval power protected global trade. And even America's rivals largely operated within rules written in Washington. But what if those assumptions are no longer true? What if the world order that emerged after 1945 is not merely under pressure, but already beginning to fracture? Today we're going to explore a theory put forward by investor and economic historian Ray Dalio. He calls it the big cycle, and according to Dalio, every great power eventually passes through a series of stages: growth, prosperity, debt, conflict, and ultimately, decline. The uncomfortable question is this: has America entered stage 6? And if it has, what happens next? I'm George. This is the Multipolar Dispatch. Let's begin. The big cycle. Ray Dalio's argument is remarkably simple. Throughout modern history, dominant powers tend to follow similar paths. The Dutch Republic dominated global trade in the 17th century. Britain dominated the 19th century. The United States dominated the 20th. Different cultures, different technologies, different eras, but surprisingly similar patterns. Each began with rising productivity, strong education, technological innovation, financial discipline, and growing military power. Success attracted capital. Capital financed expansion. Expansion created wealth. But success also planted the seeds of future problems. Debt increased. Financial speculation became more profitable than productive investment. Political divisions widened, and competitors slowly emerged. According to Dalio, this is where the United States finds itself today. Not collapsing, not disappearing, but entering a more dangerous phase of the cycle, a phase he calls stage 6. The period when the old order begins losing its ability to enforce the rules. What is stage 6? Dalio describes stage 6 as a period of great disorder, not necessarily chaos, not necessarily war, but a breakdown of trust. Trust between political parties, trust between institutions and citizens, trust between nations, and perhaps most importantly, trust in the financial system itself. For decades, the United States enjoyed an extraordinary privilege. It could borrow enormous amounts of money because the world trusted the dollar. Countries held dollars. Central banks held dollars. International trade was conducted in dollars. The system reinforced itself. But every reserve currency empire eventually faces the same challenge: too much debt, too many promises, and not enough productive growth to support them. Today, US federal debt has reached levels that would have seemed unimaginable only a generation ago. Yet borrowing continues, deficits continue, and political consensus on how to solve the problem appears increasingly distant. That doesn't mean America is about to go bankrupt. Far from it. But it does mean the foundations of the system are becoming less secure. And in Dalio's framework, that's a warning sign. When money becomes a weapon, perhaps the most important change of the last decade has been the weaponization of finance. In the 20th century, military power was often the primary instrument of coercion. In the 21st century, finance has joined the battlefield. Sanctions, asset freezes, export controls, investment restrictions, payment system exclusions, all have become tools of geopolitical competition. The freezing of Russian foreign reserves after the Ukraine conflict was a turning point. Supporters argued it was a justified response to aggression. Critics saw something else: a warning, a reminder that reserve assets are not entirely neutral. That access to the global financial system can become conditional. Whether one agrees with that interpretation or not, many governments drew their own conclusions. Gold purchases accelerated. Alternative payment systems expanded. Countries began asking a simple question: what happens if one day we're next? That question matters, because once nations begin questioning the neutrality of the financial system, they start building alternatives. And once alternatives exist, fragmentation becomes possible. This is what Dalio calls a capital war. Not tanks, not missiles, money, debt, payment systems, and control of financial infrastructure. the return of geopolitics. For a brief period after the Cold War, many believed history had reached its destination. Globalization would spread, trade would expand, and economics would gradually replace geopolitics. That didn't happen. Instead, geopolitics returned. The United States remains enormously powerful. China continues to rise. Russia remains strategically important. India is emerging as a major independent pole, and many nations increasingly refuse to choose sides. Saudi Arabia speaks to Washington and Beijing. India cooperates with both East and West. Brazil seeks flexibility rather than alignment. Indonesia does the same. This is not a bipolar world, nor is it a unipolar one. It is something new, a multipolar world, a world where power is distributed rather than concentrated, where influence is negotiated rather than imposed, and where countries increasingly hedge their bets. The trend may still be in its early stages, but the direction appears increasingly clear. Conclusion: so has America entered Ray Dalio's stage 6? The honest answer is that nobody knows. History doesn't come with labels attached. People living through Britain's decline didn't know they were witnessing it. People living through the rise of the United States didn't fully understand it either. Historical transitions are usually obvious only in hindsight. What we can say is this: debt is rising. Financial systems are becoming geopolitical weapons. Economic blocs are re-emerging. And the assumptions that defined the post-Cold War world are being questioned more openly than at any point in decades. Perhaps Dalio is right. Perhaps we are entering a period of great disorder. Not the end of America, not the collapse of civilization, but the gradual fragmentation of a world order that once seemed permanent. And if that is true, then the most important geopolitical story of our time is not who wins the next election, or even who wins the next war. It is the emergence of a new international system, one no longer dominated by a single power, but shaped by several competing centers of influence. The age of unquestioned American primacy is ending. The age of multipolarity have begun. Thank you for watching Multipolar Dispatch, and we'll see you next time.